Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. What was the fastest way you saw someone get fired? Part 3. I was the owner of a construction company, and as a result of our expansion, we have recently hired 3 new employees. I have not yet had the opportunity to meet them because my business partner was the one who conducted the interviews, observed them as they began their work on the first day, and made sure to check in with them on a regular basis. We promoted one of our most talented employees to the position of manager in order to supervise the newly hired employees. After a few days had passed, I became aware that we were falling behind schedule on the job. Although this did not come as much of a surprise to me because we had recently hired new employees, I made the decision that it would be best to go in and check on the situation to ensure that everything was proceeding smoothly. Consequently, I made a phone call to my manager and informed him that he should go to a different location. We worked at multiple locations every day, and that I will take over at the location with the new associates. As a result of traffic, I arrive at the location 30 minutes after the scheduled time. Everyone's already working diligently, and in fact, they're working in an effective and accurate manner on everything. I asked them a few questions about what they're doing and other related topics, and they gave me answers that were completely accurate. I was under the impression that the delay was only for the first 2 days of learning, and I'm very happy to report that everything was picked up and appeared to go smoothly. It's an important point to note that, at this point in time, I did not actually introduce myself and nobody asked who I was. As a result, it appears that everyone simply assumed that I was just another employee from the company that they had never experienced before. There's a guy who comes over to us 2 hours before we're supposed to finish for the day and says, "Hey, just so you know, we're all gonna leave now, but we should clock in that we worked the entire day." The manager permits it, and the owners are completely unaware of it. As a result, this is the tale of how I had to fire our most talented employee as well as 3 new hires on the very first day that I had the opportunity to meet them. I worked in a pizza and sandwich shop run by a mom and pop. The owners liked me and put their trust in me to train them. I had worked in Subway and a few pizza chains before, so I was able to do the job right away. It was time to hire new people, and I was about to train my 5th new worker. This was her first job. She was a brunette girl who was less than 5 feet 5 inches tall. She seemed nervous the whole shift, so I made sure she didn't get scared by teaching her how to make sandwiches slowly. I even gave her a cheat sheet with highlighted steps that were like baby steps for new people. Sliced bread, choose sandwich layout, etc., etc., etc. After all, it was just food. If there was a bad customer, they could come get me and I'd calm them down. Over the course of the night, the owner's wife went behind the counter to check on her and the rest of the staff. She often liked to come in and help, and she has a direct say in who gets hired and fired. She asked me about the new girl as she went to talk to me. I told her she was shy and that she might be good at her new job if she had more time. This was her first job after all. Soon after, we get a phone order. The new girl had been working for 4 hours and had only made 1 sandwich by herself. I had helped her make more than 30 others. The sandwich that was ordered was called a belly buster. This is how it's put together: turkey, Swiss cheese, hard salami, cheddar cheese, pepperoni, provolone cheese, ham, cotta salami, roast beef, monster cheese, tomato, lettuce or cabbage, pickle, mustard, mayo, oil and vinegar, salt and pepper. It's a huge sandwich that doesn't need to be toasted. Serve it cold. The owner's wife gave her the task of making it to see what she could do. The sandwich shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to make for a new worker. Took me a minute 56 to beat the record. I trained 4 other people who were still working for us. They were all quick and good at their jobs. They were great at making sandwiches. I only had to teach them 3 to 5 sandwiches. She slowly cuts the bread. When she gets to the 3rd topping, the hard salami, she takes a step back and says, "I don't know. This is something I don't think I can do. It's too tough." She was asked to come to the back office by the owner's wife where they talked. Soon after, she turned in her time and left for home. The owner's wife told me straight out I wished her luck and told her it wouldn't work. I feel bad for her boyfriend or future husband if you can't even make a sandwich. Some people aren't good enough for the job. I was the fastest person I've ever seen get fired after 5 days on the job. Give you some background, I work in biotech, specifically in microbiology research and product development. I took this job soon after being fired from my last job of 4 years. For the record, I got good grades and was promoted several times at my current job of 5 years. This business catered to a pretty specific group of people. If you don't work in biotech, you may already know that unless you find a job with a company that provides the exact same product or service, you'll have to learn some new skills, even if you already have some. You can decide if it has anything to do with how the story ends. Anyway, I knew right away that something wasn't right. There was no training at all, and my boss would only talk to me when she had to give me orders. There were also clear OSHA violations, some ridiculous rules. The owner's wife had a big screen TV in her office that showed CCTV footage of all the main workspaces, and a bad relationship between employees and management. Plus, they wouldn't even give me a desk because auditors needed the space for a while. In short, I worked hard and thought I was doing okay, at least as well as someone who had only been at their job for a week would. After the second week, I was called aside and met with HR and my boss. Even though they and I thought I was qualified after how well I did in the interview, they told me I wasn't and that I was going to the water cooler too much to drink. They even forced me to sign a paper admitting I was fired so they could give me my pay, which is against the law. In the end, I don't really know what happened. I guess they realized I wasn't a submissive jerk that they could take advantage of in the long run because I had more experience than most people in my role and came from a better-known company, but that doesn't mean people with less experience would automatically match this description. Anyway, a year later, I get a letter from a lawyer saying that they were being sued by a group of people for stealing people's pay. 6 months later, I get a check for $2,000 and they settled for $1.5 million. This is after I got a much better job that paid more at a company that cares about its workers' current job. The moral of the story is that if this happens to you for no reason, it's bad, makes you feel bad. But it's for the best because you'll find something better and eventually a job that values you. Why do your neighbors and or your HOA have such a bad reputation? Part 3. A woman over 50 moved in next door when I was 13. Almost ran right away after we met. We saw that she had put up cameras all around her house. We found that strange, but we didn't think much about it. Then one day, the police showed up while I was sitting on my porch. She said my brother and I shone laser pointers into her cameras, which we didn't do. We worked things out with the police and move on. After a few weeks, though, the police came back and said she was accusing us of the same thing. This took place 6 times. Then I was back on my porch when a woman came up. She asked for my parents, but I told her they weren't home, so she gave me her card. It turned out that she worked for the DOA as an investigator for pesticide use. We were being looked into for poisoning her lawn. The police keep coming every other week or so to keep the investigation going, and the accusations keep getting stranger. At this point, she says that my dad has been breaking into her house, climbing on top of her roof, and spraying poison on her lawn. The police were always a little confused because we weren't on her camera. After that, she asked for an order to protect her against us. What do you think we look like? She said that my dad was part of an Al-Qaeda sleeper cell. He was able to sneak past her cameras because he had made a device that stopped people from seeing him. He was able to sneak into her house and poison her or steal things, it seems. She gave us a terabyte of data as proof that we did something wrong. Most of this was video of our house that had full notes on it like Squamish leaves the house or Squamish returns from school. It was clear that she lost, so we sued her again. In the end, we got a protection order against her. It's too bad that didn't make her move. There was peace for a while, but then the police started to show up again. To point at us, she bought big floodlights one time. The fire department had to come turn them off. The report from the Department of Agriculture came back around that time, and it said that she had put too much fertilizer on her lawn. She got a ticket for making the groundwater dirty. Things got really crazy one night when my parents and I were hanging out on our porch, and all of a sudden, hazmat showed up. It turned out she had bought a Geiger counter. By the way, this woman is crazy rich because she's been married to and divorced 5 men who were each worth about $1 million. She was shockingly using it wrong, and she picked up the ground radiation and thought we had irradiated her house. One of the hazmat guys thought it would be a good idea to tell us what happened because he thought it was really strange. It turned out that she had also called the FBI and CIA on us to report activities by Al-Qaeda. It was against the law for her to point cameras through my bedroom window, and we had to get the files on her closed at the same time. After 8 years, 36 visits from the police, 4 trials, 1 investigation by the Department of Agriculture, and a lot of other strange things, she still lives next door to us. Did I say this woman and I share a driveway? One of those $20 Sony boom boxes with 1 speaker blown was playing in the background while I worked on my car in the driveway. My neighbor steamed over to my house and started complaining about the noise. I was told, "I know your landlords and I'll get you kicked out." I bought the house from a family friend 2 weeks ago and was living in 1 unit at the time. I told her to call him because I knew he would find it funny. She took out her cell phone and called her husband. He gave her the number of the previous owner. She called them in front of me and told them they had to come right away because someone was breaking into their house. They told me to call the new landlord, so I did. I gave her my number. She hung up, laughed, and then called the new landlord. I picked up the phone when it rang in front of her. She started talking to me on the phone while making fun of me in person. She told me that someone was breaking into my property, but I told them they were welcome and they should leave. When she realized she was on the phone with me, she stopped talking and looked blank. She went crazy and wouldn't leave. She called the police to complain about the noise, and when they arrived, they gave her a trespassing ticket. After 5 years, she tried the same thing again last summer, yelling that she was going to call my landlord because I was putting a new roof on his garage without permission on a Saturday, and it was making it hard for her to hear the birds. We live in a city in the country, but it only takes 5 minutes to get to the middle of nowhere. I told her to call him. Not a joke, she called me because she had saved my number. When I answered the phone from the roof, she just hung up and walked off. She lives between 2 frat houses, and I have no idea what her deal is. I have no idea what those guys hear from her. Due to the fact that the city had intended to run another street through what is now their backyard, but ultimately decided against doing so due to topological considerations, the lot on which my parents' house is situated is actually comprised of 4 or 5 lots that have been squished together. In the early 1980s, they purchased it, and the street to the east of the property had 3 houses with backyards that abutted the side of the lot line for my parents' place. It's on an east-west street, so the lot goes north-south from front to back. Additionally, the lot line for my parents' place was on the side of the lot line. During that time period, there's no fence that separated the lots, and the eastern edge of the lot that belonged to my parents is approximately 8 to 10 feet higher, with some retaining walls and other structures. While the lot that my parents own is quite large for an urban area, measuring approximately 1 acre or a little bit more, all 3 of these houses that are located on the side of it had lots that were more typical, somewhere in the vicinity of 20 acres. At some point in time, the individual who resided in the house that was located so far back on the side made the decision that he desired to construct a fence as well as to expand the size of his backyard. Therefore, he constructs a fence at the retaining wall, which is approximately 20 to 25 feet onto the property of my parents, and he also convinces the owners of the house next to him, which is in the middle of the 3, to construct a fence as well. However, the other house did not do so. Then he insists that everything that is contained within the fence is his. This ultimately leads to the courtroom, where the attorney for my parents conducted an investigation and demonstrated that the new neighbors had simply stolen a portion of my parents' property. In essence, he utilized the documents and photographs of the lots that were available on the website of the county, which clearly demonstrate who the landowners are. As a result of my parents' victory in the case, the fences of their neighbors were ordered to be torn down, and they were also required to pay a significant fine. Even more impressive is the fact that the neighbor who came up with this wonderful idea was forced to sell his home in order to pay the fine. If you want to watch the part 2, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many, many thanks for your support.